All right, welcome. This is an exciting topic today, one that we use all the time. I'm constantly, patients are always asking me about this. How can we exercise with the best posture? What are things that we need to look for? How can I improve my exercising and make sure that I'm not making a worse version of my spine and putting the least amount of pressure there? So to start that off, what I want to do, and I'm constantly going to be referring back to this, is we're going to go over what is the position of the spine, what's the ideal spinal position here. Because once we understand this, knowing that information and then exercising appropriately gets easy, because we want to instill this mental image of how our spine should be. So to review, and if you haven't seen some of this before, this will be new information, but we want a nice C-shaped curve in the low back, okay? This is really important, especially when we get to a lot of exercises where we're going to be bending down or doing any kind of squat, things like that. Remember this C-shaped curve in the low back, okay? That always needs to remain constant. Anytime we're standing, even sitting when we're exercising, remember, I want my back with that nice arch in it, okay? I don't want to be bending forward, slouching like that, and I definitely don't want to be doing this. So low back, we've got that nice C-shaped curve. Mid back is going to go a little bit the other way here, and then when we get up to the neck, we want a nice, sorry, this is taking some beating over the time here. We want a nice C-shaped curve in the neck as well. Really important. Anytime we're exercising, I constantly see people when they're lifting and different things like that, they're putting their neck forward and they're straining. Really gonna pull some muscles, and we're not gonna have good feeling in the spine here. So really just ingrain this image in your brain, okay? Anytime you're exercising, we want to be supporting our spine and keeping these curves, okay? So that's something there. I'm gonna put this off to the side. We'll take a look at that in a little bit too. So that's the biggest thing, is anytime we're exercising, we need to be in the right position. Because not only when we do that, we're putting the least amount of strain on our spine, but we're also then able to put the most amount of tension on the muscles that we're trying to work out. If I'm in bad posture and I'm recruiting more muscles, I'm getting the illusion that that muscle that I'm working out is stronger, when really I'm just recruiting other muscles to help, as opposed to isolating and exercising properly. In addition, I'm going to get fatigue and pain in areas that I shouldn't, that if I just exercise and know what the right posture is, make a huge difference. So I'm just gonna go through now some basic exercises that I get a lot of questions on. And then we're also gonna talk about a couple other things when it comes to exercising and building muscle specifically, but we're gonna open it up hopefully to a couple other topics. So I'm gonna go through here just some basic motions or most common exercises people ask me about, okay? So the first one, we're gonna start with the squat and the deadlift. That's one that really we can do poorly or we can do right, and we can strengthen our low back and some of the primary moves of our body. So we're gonna first, I've just got something here to demonstrate with, but we're gonna talk about squats. I'm a fan of doing what I call front squats, where instead of loading the weight directly onto my spine, people will use pads, stuff like that, but in this position, I feel like we can lose a lot of mobility. I can feel like we can also not be in the best position, and especially too, depending on how you're putting this, could be putting a lot of weight directly on the back of the spine here. So what I would encourage you to do is look up front squats. So you have the option, if you're using a barbell, to hold if you're using a larger squat rack out in front like this. There's tons of different techniques, ways you can hold that. We're not gonna get too specific into that. You can also do with like an actual dumbbell, where you're holding, imagine the dumbbell instead of being this way is now vertical and I'm holding here, or you can get kettlebells and hold them there. I like this as opposed, because now I've got the weight in front and I know how to better manage that, as opposed to just loading here. So the big things, remember, the spine, we want that C-shaped curve in the low back, okay? So anytime we're doing any bending, we want to do, the term is called hip hinge. So remember, I've got the hip joint right here. So I'm able to then move that hip joint, so I'm exercising the glute, my hamstrings, my quads, and I'm keeping my low back nice and curved. So imagine we've got our dumbbell or whatever right here. I already put a little bend in my legs, and look, I've got that low back curve as opposed to here or here. Got that curve, and now I'm bending at the hip. See how I can keep my back almost perfectly straight as I come down and get to a squat position. And then I can come right back up. All of that's going right to the glutes, the muscles that you really want to work. So the other big thing that we talk about with posture is weight. The biggest mistake that I see people making is they're using too much weight, and the weight is compromising their form, which is only going to lead to injury, and actually you're going to get less muscle built for the areas you're trying to target because you're recruiting so many other muscles. So you have to then try on your own to establish what is the appropriate amount of weight that I can use before I feel like, okay, now I'm leaning a little bit more forward, or I'm no longer keeping my back bent and I have to stop. That's where you really got to be safe, is use less weight, get the right amount of posture, and go through the motion. The other thing that we're going to talk about posture and exercising, specifically with weights, opens up into other categories too, is that time under tension is the most important thing. I see people constantly going in the gym and they're doing a lot of this. Like, they're going fast and they're going through the motion and they're trying to throw up a lot of weight and they're recruiting all these other muscles. We want to go nice and slow and concentrated. So how you build muscle hypertrophy, where the muscle actually, we tear muscle, we build new muscle, is the longer you keep time under tension. As we're going through there, nice, slow down, we pause, we come back up. We're actually going to tear more muscles. I mean, it's not technically sound what I'm saying here, but we're going to, in essence, build more muscle, okay? We can get into the specifics of it. That's not what this video is about. So time under tension. So my challenge to anyone watching this, work out a little differently the next time, let's say you are doing weights. Instead of the classic model of, I need to get my 10 reps or 12 reps of however many sets, I want you to use a timer. I love using it on my watch. I do a 45-second timer. My challenge would be picture perfect posture, and I want you to go through, pause, come back up, and do your set is just the 45 seconds. So instead of me trying to count to 10 reps, I am doing picture perfect posture and going through the exercise for 45 seconds. Once the 45 seconds is up, boom, that's when my set is done. So challenge the way that you think and the way that you're going through there. I like that because instead of counting what number I'm on and really focusing at pushing to the number, I'm clearing my head. I know the timer's gonna go off. I'm focusing on how do I just get perfect, keep that form perfect as I'm going through. So that's a squat we talked about. Deadlift is another one, right? So there's many different deadlifts that you can do, but essentially I'm just gonna hit on some generals here. So the big thing is I've got a hip hinge to get into the right position, okay? So I'm starting down here, my legs should have a nice bend in them, and I should have that arch in the low back. And then from here, I'm then coming up. And then you can do a straight leg deadlift where my legs are straight, and essentially I'm going down to the point where you see how, as if I bend correctly with my hip, my back isn't the one that's going this way. My back is staying almost at that straight, and as I come forward, I'm still just then using more glutes, I'm bending, I can even bend the legs, I can keep them straight, but then I keep that arch back, and then I come back up through there. So when done correctly, and I would encourage anybody to watch videos, there's tons of other videos out there, but really just slow and steady, the right amount of weight, and focusing on what are those curves that I should have. So we're gonna just bounce around to a couple other exercises and really focus on the posture there. Let's go for the biceps, right? You know, biceps is a big one. A lot of people do curls and variations, great strengthening. What's important from a side view is remember, we know what the spine should look like, but I want you to keep these visuals. My ear should be in line with my shoulder. That should be in line with my hip. That should be in line with my ankle. So when I'm going to then, let's say, do a bicep curl, right? I see this all the time. Shoulders start to roll forward. I'm leaning here, and then I'm going down. I'm doing that curl. My head's coming forward too as I'm trying to do this. And then I see a lot of people are recruiting their back to help them get up there. Terrible. Terrible form. Terrible posture. We're going to strain a lot of other muscles that we're not working out. So my challenge instead would be, let's look at keeping things right where they should be. And I almost like even saying, keep my elbows close to where my hip is. So instead here, my head is upright. And a lot of times I'll see people will be looking down at the weight. Well, remember, that's not good for that neck curve. We're going to strain our cervical muscles as well as possibly the traps as well. So I keep a nice fixed point looking up, and right here now I keep my shoulders square here, and now I go nice and slow, hit that pause, and then I go really nice and slow on the way back down too. Doing it that way, you're gonna stay out of injury. The faster you go, the more likely you are to injure. So really focus on, okay, know my points from the side view, no matter what I'm doing, if it's a bicep curl, if it's, triceps, same thing. I've got my points here, my elbows are close, I'm getting a nice, even tension all the way down, tension on the way back, keeping things in line from a side view. So, those are some really essential ones. The next one I'm going to show you that I see a lot of problems patients have with ribs in their back or when they do rows. So when rows are done correctly, we have the opportunity to strengthen our rhomboids and stretch our pecs. And doing that will keep, remember, from that side view posture where we want it. A lot of times we see people with their shoulders hunched forward, leads to tight pecs and underdeveloped, unstrengthened rhomboids. So this is what a side view is going to look like. And the same thing, now that you know those points, whether I'm doing this standing or sitting, I want my knees a little bent. If I'm sitting, I want that curve in my low back, okay? I don't want to be hunched forward like this. And then whether, I'm doing with cables where I'm pulling this way or there's a bar, essentially what I'm aiming to do, right, is I want to strengthen those rhomboids back there. And a common mistake I see is people start way out here. Look at what's happening with my shoulders when I'm starting out here with weight. And then my ribs in the back are getting really overextended. So I grab whatever the weight, get here, and this is really where I want to start. Because I want that shoulder to keep in line with my ear and my hip. And then slow, nice and concentrated pull to right about till I get to where my hands are in front of my belly button, okay? And then on the back, same thing, I'm going really nice and slow. Right when I feel like I'm starting to get my elbows way out in front and I could potentially be rolling my shoulders, that's where I want to stop. So it's a much more specific, even shortened movement where I'm essentially going from here, I'm trying to squeeze my shoulder blades together like I'm trying to pinch them together, and then I'm slowly coming out in front. I don't want to go out in front and flare my shoulder blades. Right about there. That's as much as I want to do. Same thing, I'm going nice and controlled. I'm not trying to go fast, I'm going slow. It's gaining stability, I'm burning and creating more muscle. So huge one for the mid-back that I see. So we touched on any kind of squats or bending forward, keeping that curve there. We touched on if we're doing anything with the arms that we want to keep the ear in line with the shoulders back through here. And if we're doing anything where we're trying to do some rows to strengthen that back, we don't want to overextend the front. We want to go slow, as well as we don't need to coming back is less of a problem. It's more going forward that we could really damage that. So that's some of the essentials. Feel free, please comment on this video if there's more specific exercises you want to see, how I could improve my posture on, or what should I focus on for that. Would be happy to do a follow-up video in the future with more specific exercises. To reiterate, remember, let's keep this visual of how the spine should be. So no matter what exercise we're doing, if I'm laying down, I'm keeping a curve in the back. If I am sitting, I'm trying to keep that low back curve. If I'm standing, I'm keeping and preserving those curves. And then always remember that visual from a side view. So let that fall, that ear in line with the shoulder, shoulder in line with the hip, in line with the ankle, okay? So when we do those and we go nice and slow, I would challenge you, do sets of specific time frames. 45 seconds, I feel like it's a good neutral. You go less on 30 or more on 60, and then focus on just getting a pure controlled movement during that time and not get in the habit of really trying to just get to whatever number it is. So it's my challenge to you. Hope you enjoyed the content. Please feel free to comment. Let us know if there's other things you want to see specifically. So thank you, and have a great day.